Hello everybody, welcome to Tabletop Tourneys. I am Simon, of course, and just to quickly catch you guys up in case you're not following me on Facebook on the Tabletop Tourneys. So on the back of the Battle in the Bush video, I said the next tournament was ATC, because and my ATC list is what I actually took to Battle in the Bush. So ATC is the Australian Team Challenge, Australasian Team Challenge. Anyway, that was extremely fun, and I actually did take all the way down to Melbourne my camera gear and tripod and all that type of stuff. I set it up on day one, and something happened. For some reason, my time-lapse camera was not working. So while I did take some like intro videos and things like that, I just didn't think the video was that it was that interesting to people, and so I didn't put it up. And I've made that call over the last 4 years, where if a particular tournament or the recordings or whatever wasn't really that interesting, I didn't want to really waste people's time in actually putting it up. That's why I do time-lapse, you know, get a whole tournament done in like 20 minutes. So just to recap though, so I won Battle in the Bush, Queensland, which I'm part of, won for the third year in a row, ATC, which was fantastic. And so the next tournament after that, which I didn't have really a lot of time to prepare, was Orktoberfest. Now, Orktoberfest is a more kind of comp orientated. It's meant to be a bit more friendly of a tournament up here in Brisbane. It's been running for many, many years. And so I said I'll kind of take an idea of what my ATC list was, but just do Harlequins and lots of troops. So as you can see, what I took was literally just so no Ynnari. This is all just Harlequins, troops and boats, pretty much. You know, they've got fusion pistols and embraces and stuff like that, but I haven't maxed out on anything, and it's a little bit copy and paste, but it's just I wanted to take troops because I didn't really take any troops. I was doing character spam for ATC, and transports. So that's pretty much it. And there's one lost Farseer, which is I'll call him Bob. And that's just it. So as we get into the games, I'll kind of point out the things I'm talking about right now. But this army, as I didn't really have an idea of if the Harlequin kind of run then charge or fall back and still do whatever you want could take it the place of Ynnari. I had my kind of suspicions that Ynnari would persevere, but I wasn't 100% sure. But after this tournament, I can definitely tell when it's better to run Ynnari versus when it's better to run the Harlequin, whatever it's called, sorry. Yeah, so but for this particular list, it would be absolutely, I would say like 30% better running as Ynnari. And especially because of the way I kind of trained myself to play, which was setting up really cool combos and soul bursts, and like setting up a soul burst and this would happen this. There were so many times where I'd be looking at this and I'd set up a situation, especially games like 1 and 2, where I was kind of deprogramming myself, but I'd set up a situation where I was like, oh, that's right, I can't soul burst. Crap. So yeah, this particular army would absolutely be better running just everything as Ynnari. Straight up, it would be better. So in essence, I nerfed myself by doing Harlequins. But Harlequins aren't, the Harlequin trait is not bad. It's just not optimal, or most efficient. Alright, so with that all wrapped up, I hope you enjoy the tournament. Alright, round 1 of Orktoberfest, one of the bigger tournaments here in Brisbane. So versing Josh Carroll. I haven't actually versed you, but we have, and he's playing a nasty demon list with Chaos and Magnus and a bunch of dudes. And even though I'm playing just Harlequins, not Ynnari Harlequins, all full of troops and a bunch of dudes. Even though I got +1, he actually went first, and he's going to try and go first, and I'm going to try and seize because I'm a mean person like that. Alright, with no C's, we'll get straight into the game, and as you can see, I'm trying to center, and you'll see this a lot in all my games this weekend, on Oktoberfest. I'm trying to just center the objectives. Harlequins kind of have to work as a pack, especially without Soul Burst. Once I'm out of the boats, I move pretty slow, comparatively. Yes, I'm not, walking 6 inches, and yes, I can run and charge and all that type of stuff. But the pistols, so with my main kind of damage dealer, I'm about 60% melee, and then the rest is fusion pistols. So I can't use my kind of trait to run and charge while being able to shoot. And then if I'm just going to stand in combat and use, say, my pistol against whatever I'm shooting at, I'm then not using my kind of fallback and shoot something and then recharging something else. Yeah, so this is kind of what in my intro when I was saying, this army would work way better as Ynnari. And that's kind of because of how the list is. Ynnari with lots of characters or lots of, troops. It's really hard to describe when they're literally troops, as in Harlequin troops, and then they're a troop slot. So when I say troops, I mean Harlequin troops. Anyway, Ynnari works absolutely much better with that. However, if you're running the Harlequin bikes, I think that the Harlequin ability, and especially if you're running Harlequin bikes with Zephyr blades, that's pretty much what you need to do. Then yes, absolutely, the run and charge is very fine. They're, because their guns are assault guns. They've got the cannons, and then their fallback, run and shoot and charge and all that type of stuff. I think that's when Harlequins might be slightly better than Ynnari. But other than that, I don't see it. Anyway, let's get into the game. His turn one, so Josh's turn one, he just pushed forward with his screen. And he kind of made a few little mistakes because he was leaving a few too many gaps. And I don't know if he forgot that Harlequins can just jump over everything or not, but there was a gap right next to the Changeling. And so pretty much my entire army, very little damage happened to my army. My turn one, I push forward with everything, and I then double move, so I do the Twilight Pathways on a Troop Master. I jump him over and I land him right next to the Changeling, and I Fusion Pistol and kill Changeling in one shot, which meant then the rest of my army could soften up a lot of the other, what are they called, the little brimstones, and then my combined charge of pretty much everybody killed, I think, all bar 3 brimstones. I think, yeah, there's 3 brimstones left after that. And that's really my goal initially, was kill all the brimstones, kill all the little stuff. And it worked, yeah. So my first round of shooting and charging, killed all bar 3. And it was all because there was just gaps that Josh made. And it's because people don't really play against Harlequins and things that can kind of just jump over when they're kind of on the ground. Anyway, so after that, I then went, I'll just leave Magnus for the last. I'll kind of ignore him. He's going to be killing... He killed about 3 units per turn. Either boats or like full-on units. And I just had to keep on sacrificing while I was slowly killing the rest of his Demon Princes. I got a couple of really nice Fusion Pistol hits on some of the Demon Princes and then went in with the charge. Reroll to wound on Troop Masters are awesome. And that's pretty much it. Just they're great. And yeah, I ignored this Dreadnought thing at the back. I ignored it. It was a pain in my ass the entire game. It killed almost 2 boats a turn. So it's a Forge World Dreadnought thing. So if you're a Chaos player, you should really look into it because it was great. I'd never seen it before. It was just decimating boats left and right. And I was like, alright, I'm just going to have to accept it. Because of the way he kind of ran it away from the army, which was very smart. If I was going to commit to get the Dreadnought, I would have to then kind of leave Magnus to do what he does. And because of where the objectives are, I couldn't really do that. That's pretty much it. So game plan, kill the little stuff, kill the Demon Princes, and then kill Magnus. If his Dreadnought was closer in, I might have switched to him, but because he ran away, I just ignored it. I don't think I even shot a single shot at the Dreadnought. Slowly getting through Magnus though, through some occasional smite, some fusion pistols that would get through occasionally. Again, 3+ invulnerable with rerolls of 1s is a pain in the bum. Right at the end, so this is turn 5 here. I believe I got bottom of turn. Yeah, I did. So Magnus goes into my Farseer, and my Farseer had Fortune on him, and survived on 1 wound. So Magnus goes in, and when everything at because Magnus was down to 6 or something like that. Anyway, he goes in. Farseer survives on 1 wound, and then does a smite and kills Magnus for the win. It was a great game.
Alrighty,
round 2 in Orktoberfest, and I won my first rounds against Magnus and Co. And I'm versing a new player, Steve. I haven't versed him before either. And we're playing guard, and he's got a big chain coming in a second. And Harlequins, scouring, all that fun stuff. So Steve's just deploying. And I haven't seen this tank before, but looks mean.
Strength 10, Mech 5, 26 and 63.
Very good. Alright, so this game would be a good test for me against guard, because about 30% of the field at Oktoberfest brought guards. It was a lot of guard players. So getting into it, we're playing Vanguard Strike. He's got a whole bunch of interesting guard models. And without Ynnari as a crutch, if you want to call it, I'm going to have to kind of commit one way, and then I can't really get to the other side of the board. So he can split me very easily if I'm not careful. One of the things, and this is I'm kind of foreshadowing near the end of the game, is so Steve, you know, he keeps all his army packed up because he's got a lot of different stuff. So as you saw in the intro, his setup time was just a bit longer than normal. I did not even suggest that he would be slow playing. It's just his army is a bit slower than normal, as most guard armies where you've got lots of models. He has lots of mortars because he's Catachan. He's re-rolling all of his attacks. You'll watch it through the video. And unfortunately, we only when there was 20 minutes to go, it was turn 3. I mentioned it to Steve, and I said, look, we only got 20 minutes to go. This is probably the last turn, so keep that in mind when you do your movement. He said, yep, okay, and he started moving on to objectives. Because I had them bottom of turn, I could counterplay that. Unfortunately, that meant, well, unfortunately for Steve, that meant that at the bottom of turn 3, I had won. If we'd gone to turn 4, I think it still would have been a win, maybe a smaller win to me, but we only had 5 minutes to go, and I didn't want to be rushed and then let everyone, because we were already running behind him for the whole tournament. I hate being in that situation where you're trying to hurry your opponent so they have 2.5 minutes for their turn 4, so you can have your 2.5 minutes, because it just wasn't going to happen. It just then meant that the end of this game was a bit more kind of sour, which is always unfortunate. I hate having bad games that kind of delve into that, because up until that point we were having a very fun game. Anyway, so just to quickly catch you up, Steve very smartly put some Rough Riders and the little sniper dudes kind of on the other side of the board. It meant that I had to break off a portion of my army to go deal with them, because I didn't want them capping objectives. They were kill points as well. Anyway, I had to deal with them. I managed to clear it all up, but then they were late to the party, because I, in essence, had to engage turn 1, 2 with most of my army, but not all of it, which meant I was coming in a bit more piecemeal than I would like. I made some really long charges, which was really useful for me, especially with the boats. And St. Celestine was putting in extra work for Steve, because she was just chopping anything and everything that was looking at her cross-eyed. That's pretty much it. So me clearing up the top of the board, and sorry, I live right next to an airport here, so if there's planes, that's why. Anyway, yeah, me clearing up the top of the board, pushing into the bottom. Eventually all my boats die, I think, except for this one in the top here, but it's kind of then using the character rule and using my troops as screens for the characters, but because again they're not Ynnari, I couldn't say once you kill the troop, soul burst and charge to protect my characters, and this is a perfect example of where this particular army would have been way better as a Ynnari army rather than a Harlequin army. But very rarely was I falling back and charging or shooting when I would just rather be double tapping. So I'd charge in or shoot something, kill it, and then shoot something else, and then charge something else. Like that is just so much more stronger when you've got this many kind of troops. Moving forward, I'm just trying to lock things into combat so it can't shoot. That's one of the kind of problems of guard. It's you do have some orders, I guess, that you can shoot again, but you then waste those so they can shoot rather than reroll ones or anything like that. I'm hitting the blobs. I'm trying to get to command them. I'm just trying to be distracting Steve while going through the turns. That's pretty much it. His firepower is just too strong, and because I got second turn, he got first, I got second. I just had to, wear it, so to speak. I'm getting good Maelstroms. I didn't get domination or something. I just I'm getting ones where I probably scored 1 or 2 a turn at most. It'd probably be at least 1 a turn. Let's just put. I don't think I got just huge swings with Maelstroms. So Steve would get, say, 1 card. I'd get 1 or 2. I think though early on, just because he's parking a lot a bit more, and none of the objectives are really near. Because again, we centered them in the middle. You can see they're all in the middle and one on my side. He didn't get that lucky. If it's not that lucky, he's just he might get one that's in the middle. So he had to push right into it, which then meant I had a chance to get that objective. Anyway, we're wrapping up here. What is this? It's now just my turn. Yeah, my turn 3. You saw, so he's got some guardsmen in the middle. That's again exactly because I told him this would be the last turn. He did the move, got onto the objectives, moving on objectives. I got bottom of turn. I try to clear him off, contesting objectives, holding objectives, etc. And yeah, pretty much around here we've got about 5 minutes left. I'm wrapping up my turn, and that was it. Alright, round 3, versing Mech, and more guard. This is just pure tank army, and 1 psyker. And some sentinels, yes. Can't forget the sentinels. And they're Acadian, yeah?
All Canadian, yeah.
So lots of reroll ones to hit, fun times. My deployment, we're doing table quarters, pretty much just on the line here. The mission's big guns. Alrighty, so game 3 against Mick, and this was definitely my funnest game, just because Mick's a really nice bloke, and we kind of he was using this as kind of like a training game in terms of he was learning a bunch of stuff, and he seemed very open to getting constructive criticism and different ideas, which he's already put into practice for his future armies. Anyway, getting back to it. So, sorry, one of the things, I did buy a new camera. So after my ATC kind of debacle, I bought a new timelapse camera from Reno, the Pro version. So it doesn't have a fisheye lens, but it does have a much bigger field of view lens, and just a base lens. And I'm still getting used to exactly kind of where I need to aim it, etc. So if the camera is not perfect, forgive me, but as you can see, this is just the base Pro. It captures pretty much the whole table without me having to stuff around with it. This is really, really cool. Anyway, Mick got the first turn, I believe. No, I got the first turn. I didn't really do anything though. So I charged up, I moved everything up. I then Twilight Pathways 1 squad and killed Pask just with fusion pistols inside the guy. So I killed 1 tank. I then charged, multi-charged 2 of his other tanks. So I charged a primary psyker hiding there, and then touched his other tank just so he had to fall back. But that's pretty much it. So my turn 1 was, kill a few sentinels, kill Pask through a slingshot, which I even told Mick about because I believe he watched my videos, and I said, I believe I just said before the game started, it's like, people, even though you tell them, they don't really kind of register in their head. And then he left me a little gap, and I was like, all right, I'm going to take the gap. Anyway, he pushes forward with his this giant tank on his turn 1. Whiffs completely, pretty much with everything, which is really unfortunate for him. But he did kill, I think he killed a boat or 2. I then shot a few more things. I kind of jump out with most of my troops. I'm just trying to get things into combat and get some damage happening. He then charges with his Baneblade, which is awesome, and he uses his stratagem. And they're really deadly in combat, which is crazy. And he killed a troop master and a bunch of troops. But unfortunately, as you just saw about 10 seconds ago, he removed his Baneblade after a bunch of fusion pistols and las cannons shot straight into it. It exploded. He even used a reroll to try and get the explosion because I had most of my army surrounding it. Had that exploded, I would have been super sad, and it probably meant that Mick may have even won this game had that exploded. While I was on all the objectives, then he still had 2 Wyverns and 3 Lehman Russes kind of functioning. Unfortunately, it was not to be. He didn't explode it, and then I just kind of pinned him back while my boats are just holding objectives. One turn, I got Domination and Supremacy, so it was like a 7-point card swing there. So Maelstrom was in the bag. Eternal War was pretty good. Guard don't like Neg 1 to hit in general. And then I was pretty much sacrificing the rest of my army. So all those troops and characters and all that, he killed most of them, but I didn't care. Like that, they had done their job. They're there now just to annoy him and to die, pretty much. Because I'm focusing on the 2 missions. And that's pretty much how the game ended. There's not really that much to talk about. I'll just let it play out. But had the Maelstrom, had Eternal War, and just sacrificing the rest of my army to prevent some weird craziness to happen. So at the end of the game, we were kind of talking about what Mick could do to improve his army, and some rattlings. So dropping some of the Sentinels, rattlings, and I think a unit of Ogrins is what we kind of worked out. Anyway, I'm sure he can chime in if he wants in the comments, and he can then say what worked and what didn't. Alrighty, last round of Orktoberfest, versing Jeremy, another new player. Not new player to the game, but I haven't versed him before. And we've got Space Wolves and the Mech guys. And I've just deployed all in the middle, and I'm going first. It's going to be a good game. Alrighty, so the last game, versing Jeremy, and this was interesting. I haven't played Space Wolves in 8th yet, so I did have a few little questions, and they can be deadly. So when I say deadly, sorry, they can be tanky. 3-up invulnerable on a Dreadnought, is really painful. Especially you got 1 reroll, so it's a 3-up invulnerable, say 1 reroll. But you have to get through that toughness. I think it's 7, 3-up base save, maybe something like that. And because they're venerable dreadnoughts as well, they regain a wound, or they have a 6-up feeling pain. I don't know, something like that. It's just venerable dreadnoughts with 3-up invulnerables, no joke. And with the kind of close combatness of them, and they're the tanks to the shooty robots. I think Jeremy's army was pretty good. The only thing that I was doing was just using every trick in the book. That's pretty much it. I just had to say, right, we've got the relic. This is for this mission. It was the relic. I jumped on it turn 1 because I got first turn, and I was holding the relic the whole game with a Shadow Seer. So he was just sitting back and just casting Smite and doing shenanigans. The rest of my army was just trying to lock down his army. So using some of the tricks I did in ATC, which was like the big robots, especially with the guns. You charge into something that's next to it, and then you pile into them, or you just charge them, take their Overwatch, but you lock them in combat, and they can't necessarily fall back and shoot. They can't fall back and shoot, but then they can't shoot, and especially if they anchor down, it means they then can't fall back at all. And if you can just continually keep them locked in, that's a huge portion of the army stuck. And they can use, I believe, an ability to kind of change to the fist version or a combat version or something like that. Not the fist version, sorry, just to do double combat attacks, but then they can't shoot anymore for the rest of the game, and then you've kind of achieved your goal. You can run just circles around them and eventually get through them. But yeah, this army was just super tanky, with some really good damage coming from certain areas, especially the Mech area. And my goal was just to try and kill the transports, kill all the troops. Like I focused on all the little, what are they called? Blood cores, I think they're called. And anything melee that was kind of pushing forward. Because again, I've got the relic, I'm just trying to run interference. And that's how you have to play these kind of aggressive lists. You have to run interference and be more aggressive on certain things. It was working reasonably well. He was still doing a lot of damage, which was not cool. But near the end, once I'd cleared all the chaff out, I think it was the turn 3, I got a bunch of smites through into some of his characters. and then my charges. So I got my. This is the one game I've used my fallback and charge and shoot. So a bunch of my charges, and I kind of just lock things in combat to prevent shooting. So Harlequins or Ynnari or anything like this, you prevent damage. Yes, they're fragile, but you prevent damage not through being necessarily tough. Neg 1 to hit tanks is also useful, but it's through mitigating damage through being in combat. That's pretty much it. It's picking the combats that you want, and really it's against shooty things. You get those guys in combat so they can't shoot, while preventing the melee threats, because you want to generally be in combat, from reaching your lines where you can't sacrifice it. So I'm sure I could go into way more detail of that. In my head I understand it, and it seems to work well, because as this game is wrapping up, I got the win, and I won the whole tournament. So the theory works. I put it in practice now 3 times. This is now the 3rd tournament in a row that I won. There was a team tournament, the ATC, but our team won. But then Battle in the Bush and then Orktoberfest. Similar concept lists, aggressive, in your face, making your opponent not be able to easily pick target priority, and then sacrificing things that you can sacrifice to, say, melee threats, while tying up shooty threats in combat. And that's kind of the concept. So right near the end, a bit of comedic relief. I could have just sat back. So my Shadow Seer is hiding behind some walls, has a relic, and he could have just sat there. It was the last turn. We went to turn 6. But I wanted to say, you know what, I want to shoot off a smite and kill call. I didn't need to. I'd already won the game with a full win, like it would have been an 18 points to 2, because we drew on kill points. But unfortunately, and I had no more rerolls, but unfortunately, my 3 wound Shadow Seer perils on a double 6, and of course I roll 3 mortal wounds to myself. I kill myself, but I also kill call. So yes, so what went from a big win, I'd won everything. We actually drew on the primary because I dropped the relic that I was holding, that I was hiding behind, and he couldn't see me even even if he did some invisible shot through walls or something like that. So that was just a complete mistake. Luckily it didn't cost me the tournament, but it would have meant I would have been 4 extra points up. So I got 70 out of 80 for the tournament, and had I just literally sat behind the wall and said good game, I would have been 74 out of 80 for generalship. But I was trying to do something funny, and of course it kills me. Anyway, overall the tournament was it was okay. Everything was painted well. So Orktoberfest is definitely known for well painted armies, and you'll see in some of the pictures that they posted up that I'm putting into the video that there were some really nice painted armies. It was a 60-player event, but there was just a little bit of contention leading up to it, because originally, and none of this affected me, so it's nothing. It was just me as a kind of bystander. This kind of affects people, just kind of seeing it rather than actually being affected. Initially, they initially announced that there was going to be resubmits of lists and things like that. But I'd already submitted my list with just Harlequins, and I didn't think it was particularly strong. And as proven, I only, because of the way that they were doing win-loss, I only kind of scraped through a couple of those wins, as they were very close. But I got the win because I played to the objective. And that's what this tournament was. If this was more like an ATC, like a 1 to 20 type thing, or sorry, 0 to 20, these would have been a 12-point wins for most of my rounds. Because there was no tablings actually. So I guess the point was, I kind of just submitted my list. I thought it was soft enough to get through any type of panel or any type of comp, which it was. No resubmit was ever asked, and I was happy with that. However, there was a number of people, in my friends, as part of my friends, or just that I happen to know, that were either asked to resubmit or were there was a bit of confusion. So that confusion in the lead up was not necessarily the best environment coming into the tournament. That's pretty much it. So it's not as a super criticism to anyone in particular. It's more just for future tournaments, especially here in Brisbane. We want to try and build community. We want to try and build comradeship. I don't know how to pronounce that. And we want to try and build kind of competence in tournament players, because one tournament, a single tournament, is not the be all and end all. You should always be looking bigger. You should be looking at, so this tournament should lead into the development of players in the Brisbane area. And Brisbane's being the city that this was held in, that I live in. And then, say, in Queensland, because when we play for Australia, we were playing for the Queensland team in ATC, for example. But then also, there's also the ETC. So that I'm captain of the ETC this year. And I want there to be a very strong and vibrant kind of community and 40k tournament scene in Australia, in all the different cities. Because when I do a call out for ETC players, I get not just people who can pay to come, but people who are actually strong and committed. Strong players and committed to playing. And you can't just get that in one city. So this is how I always think. I'm always thinking, how do I improve my own game, but also how do I improve the game of the people around me? Because then, if they're better, then in our practice games, I'm better. And then I think about the tournaments that I go to, and that's why I'm starting to travel a lot more. Anyway, I've rambled on enough. My point is that I think if we have a strong community and strong tournament scene, rather than just focusing on a single tournament, but the kind of bigger picture, some of these issues might go away. But overall, as I said, it was an okay tournament. I'm very happy that I won. That's always a good thing, and that and I thank the tournament organisers for their time in organising everything, and all my opponents, etc. Tournament organisers.